Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about a rather serious topic, so please get your serious game face on. So, without further ado, let's get started.
How much longer can you afford to live in your home?
1 month. I don't know what I'm going to do. Hope that I don't wake up tomorrow. That's crossed my mind.
One of the most important forms of affordable housing is under threat. They're called manufactured housing communities. You might know them as mobile home parks or trailer parks, and they often get a bad rap. But 22 million Americans call them home for a reason.
We're pretty much the last oasis of affordable housing in this country.
These parks are at the foundation of America's housing market, often the last line of defense against homelessness. But over the last decade, these communities have become the target of a new kind of landlord: private equity.
Private equity.
Okay, so just to kind of give a bit of background here, manufactured home are not mobile homes. A lot of people get that wrong. Manufactured homes are homes that are assembled elsewhere, not on the lot, and then brought to the lot, but they are not mobile home in a sense that they are not on wheels. And manufactured homes oftentimes sit on lot that is rented. So you still have to pay a rent, even though it's home ownership, but it's, in my opinion, this is a very bizarre form of home ownership because it lacks the element of permanence. When you think about home ownership, you think about permanence and, the idea that you're going to buy a home and you're going to live in it forever and, multi-generational, you're going to pass it down to your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren. And so the idea of buying a home and then renting land from someone else's is not a good investment because, what happened if, in this case, the land ownership changes hands. And then what happened? There's an element of uncertainty with manufactured homes. And we'll see as we watch more of this.
Called manufactured housing communities. You might know them as mobile home parks or trailer parks, and they often get a bad rap. But 22 million Americans call them home for a reason.
We're pretty much the last oasis of affordable housing in this country.
These parks are at the foundation of America's housing market.
And you can kind of see where the, I don't want to say wasted effort, but you can kind of see where, this guy has planted flowers here, and he has, this looks like a new porch, if I am correct. People renovate this land. That is not their own, right? It's like, starting to plant crops on someone else's land. It's kind of, I don't want to say pointless because it makes these people happy and, but it's extremely risky. It's a risk I would not be willing to take.
Often the last line of defense against homelessness. But over the last decade, these communities have become the target of a new kind of landlord: private equity.
Private equity firms are increasingly getting involved.
Some of the biggest investors in America have moved into this industry.
People living at a local mobile home park outraged over the sharp increase in lot rent.
Rents were raised by nearly 60%.
Their rent could increase by thousands of dollars a year.
So why have manufactured homes become private equity's latest target? And what can be done to save one of the last forms of affordable housing in the country?
See, here's the thing. I don't quite agree that manufactured home is the last form of affordable housing. When you think about affordable housing, not home ownership, housing, which is a totally different thing, you would think the first form, like the lowest tier of housing, would be you rent, right? Renting an apartment, room share. That's housing. Now, home ownership, let me tell you, if manufactured home is the last line of affordable home ownership, then we're all screwed. Then that means that starter homes is like in flames. That means that starter communities are dead, all dead.
I've lived in manufactured homes for 50 years, maybe more.
Madeline Beckett lives in a park outside of Lansing, Michigan.
This park was run the way a good park should be run, by the same couple for years and years and years. They were a little stern, or she was a little stern. She was a lot stern, but nobody pulled any punches with her.
Like most people in manufactured housing, Madeline owns her home, but pays monthly rent to the park owner for the land it sits on.
When I retired, I looked at my money and my situation, and I'm like, okay, great. I knew what the rent was. It was a third of my income. I don't live high on the hog, I'm not going to Paris anytime soon. And then the conglomerate came in and offered apparently the owner money that he couldn't resist.
See, I want to feel bad for this woman. I really, really do. Lady, if you're listening to this, my heart goes out to you. But a part of me is just going, what? You own a home. Well, she said she's lived in a manufactured home for, a large part of her life. I don't know how many other manufactured homes she's lived in. But assuming she's only lived in this one for 50 years, like, she knows how this game works, right? She said that she's comfortable and that she is, is happy with, kind of her income and her going forward. But and the reason why she's happy is because she knows the owner and the couple that runs this. But that begs the question, right? That begs the question, in the 50 years that this woman lived in this manufactured home park, does it never occur to her what would happen, right? In the event, what would happen if the owner changed hands? Like, does that, and it's not even, we're talking about private equity because that's what this video is about, the scourge of America, future private equity, the scourge of the American economy. But even without private equity, what happened if the couple that runs this park dies? Like, what happened if they get run over by a truck? What happened if they get ill? What happened if they pass it on to their children and it's mismanaged or it's run badly? I mean, you have to understand, like, this is why it's so frustrating, is that people like this woman banks her entire future on just the relationship between her and these two people that are park owners. And she's banking on them to remain here, forever and keep the status quo forever. Does that not occur to her that it is so, living on someone else's land is, in my opinion, not true home ownership? And I really have to wonder, like, how can someone live for years and years in a precarious situation that could change, that could disappear, have the rug pull out under them at any time, and just not think about it and just assume that everything is going to work out?
I looked it up and I went, oh dear, I think we are in trouble.
No.
3 years ago, a private equity firm bought Madeline's community and later sold to another firm. Since then, her monthly rent plus fees have jumped 50%.
Instead of what I thought the rent was going to be, it's $200 more. I have nowhere to go. Just the other day, my daughter went with me to the food bank, and I hadn't done that before. I haven't been poor. I worked for 45 years.
During the pandemic, institutional investors started to buy more manufactured housing than ever before.
By the way, if you missed it, 2020 was a great year for investment Yeah. Lots of people died. Lots of people lost their job. I mean, if you were rich, you could have swept up entire neighborhoods. We're talking entire neighborhoods. Rows and rows of houses. Yeah? Joke's on you, huh? You missed that timing.
Between 2020 and 2021, they made nearly a quarter of all manufactured home purchases in the U.S. Today, 12 private equity firms own at least 1,200 parks nationwide.
So, in case you missed that, 12 companies own basically 20% of the manufactured home parks. That's insane. That's crazy.
According to the Private Equity Stakeholder Project. In Michigan, private equity owns 1 in every 10 parks.
Yikes.
There is an overall trend in our economy to identify who has the fewest choices and then squeeze them.
First of all, welcome to America. But second of all, that has always been the trend. Squeezing the peasant serf, the poorest of the poor, that has always been a thing, Paul.
Paul Terranova organizes manufactured housing residents in Michigan.
While folks often call them mobile homes, they're not really particularly mobile. Wall Street investors, private equity firms, hedge funds kind of figured out that folks living in manufactured housing communities are trapped. They can't move. There's a guy named Frank Rolfe who runs something called Manufactured Housing University.
Okay, we're now at her second park. We're getting out again. So here we are.
He was quoted saying something along the lines of, owning a mobile home park is like owning a Waffle House and having your customers chained to the booth.
I don't know. I don't know. I've never been to a Waffle House, so I have no idea whether that's a good analogy or not. But looking in from the outside, I do not want to be anywhere near it, let alone chained to one.
Really tolerate rent increases really well. And it pretty much works throughout America because there's so much need for affordable housing right now.
So this man's business model is to teach people how to hold their renter hostage because it is so prohibitively expensive to move the manufactured house. They are essentially held hostage to any rent increases. That's what this guy is saying. What a lovely man.
Business model, a reliable stream of payments from captive tenants, is a big reason why these parks are so lucrative, providing investors with one of the highest annual returns of any asset in real estate.
See, I look at the return or an ROI of 22%, and I just think to myself, this is what Bernie Madoff should have just put all his money in this. He wouldn't have gone to prison, and he would have given the same yield that he promised people. He should have gone to mobile home parks or manufactured home parks.
Higher than offices, commercial, industrial, you name it.
Hey, trailer park.
This is a financial play to them. They don't care about us. They'd just as soon evict us, take our homes, and then rent them out to somebody else for $200 more.
I actually don't know how...
Theo Gantos.
So I actually don't know how they do that. I would assume that they would just scrap the manufactured home after eviction. But I suppose if the manufactured home is like new, then, you could rent it out to someone else, but then it wouldn't be a manufactured home anymore. It would just be a rental properties. So, but I don't know, huh?
Lives in a park near Flint, Michigan. 3 years ago, it was taken over by Homes of America, an affiliate of the hedge fund Alden Global Capital. Alden Global is best known for buying newspapers across the country and stripping their assets.
A liquidating company. I love it. Anybody watch that movie, The Liquidator? I haven't seen that movie in such a long time, but it gives me an appreciation for these parasites. You know what I mean? If you know, you know. Tearing apart everything.
We had a pool, before the Homes of America. We still pay the same amount as though we had a pool and as though we had a community center, but we have no community center either.
Since 2021, Homes of America has gone on a buying spree, spending nearly $300 million to acquire 138 parks across 17 states. They've raised rents and aggressively evicted residents. After years of neglect, only about 15% of the lots in Theo's Park are still occupied. And who is Homes of America?
Homes of
It's a
America is
lot
just
of
a
empty
shell
lot.
within a shell within a shell. Homes of America is Randy Smith.
Randall Smith is the founder and chief investment officer of Alden Global. He lives in Palm Beach, Florida. As of 2017, he owns 17 mansions.
Oh my God. Oh, this is a mansion. Yeah, mansion in quotation mark. Look at this thing. What type of mansion is this?
He has since sold 14 of them for a reported profit of $57 million.
Yeah, this is the plunder of private equity. This is what they do.
Hopefully.
Wow, is that the water? Is that just like straight out from the tap? Well, you know, I will say Homes of America must be religious because they're offering their resident one-way ticket to heaven. I mean, a free ticket to heaven.
The attention of the out-of-state corporation that owns this park and force its officers and directors to do the right thing.
Oh yeah, most of these private equities firm are like from Wall Street or somewhere obscenely, centralized in that part of the country, if you know what I mean. Like, it's not, they will never deign to dirty their shoe and come to these trailer park, quote unquote. So,
For the residents of this community, it's clear to me this corporation is putting profits before people.
Honestly, the warrant should be to Randall Smith, CEO of Alden. But he's hidden himself behind multiple shell layers. So getting to him is hard.
These big companies buying up these communities now need some oversight because right now they're free to abuse residents in pretty much every way they want.
Holly Hook lives 30 minutes away at another park, owned by private equity firm Haven Park Communities. That's the same company that bought Madeline's Park, and it owns 63 other parks across the country. In the last 6 years, Haven Park has doubled Holly's housing costs. To avoid homelessness, she's had to take on 2 roommates. What power do you have right now in the existing legal structure to do anything about the rising rent or any of the fees?
There's absolutely no recourse right now. About a year after this started, it's like something just broke in me, and I started talking to some neighbors saying we've got to gather and do something about this.
Residents were up in arms and they started going to their local township council meetings and their city council meetings. And a few of them were able to make contact with a couple of state representatives, a Democrat named Senator John Cherry.
A lot of people from the district went up to him and told him about what Haven Park.
I mean, I commend these people on what they're doing, but you can already, you don't even need to watch the rest of this video. The pushback, the lobbying would be insane.
Very collaborative process that actually included the Michigan Manufactured Housing Association.
The legislation would require landlords to justify any rent increase above the rate of inflation in front of a state commission. It would also limit the fees that landlords can charge, make utility charges transparent, require notification when a park is sold, and force landlords to pay fair market value for a home if a resident is evicted.
Okay. These are all great things, but the one thing I'm concerned about is the fair value for a home. I don't know, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if manufactured home ever appreciate in value. Maybe in the middle of a bubble, but in the long run, in the long term, I don't think so. Homes depreciate. I don't know if you know that. Homes depreciate. Only the land appreciates. Except in this case, they don't own the land. So, I've researched this online, and everybody is kind of split. You know, I've kind of asked this online and nobody could really agree on an answer. Some people say that manufactured home will always go down in value. Some people say that if it's new and it's well maintained, it might be able to retain its value. Some people say that, you know, during a rush or a bubble in certain part, you know, a certain area, it might increase the price a little bit, but then the bubble pop and the value will go back down. It doesn't seem like something you should be banking on. Yeah, I don't know. Fair value of a manufactured home, I don't even know how to calculate that.
These are really modest protections, so it's not everything that we need right now. It's not gonna set the rents back to what they were or anything like that, but it would start to make things more fair. It would just be a modest start.
In the state's last legislative session, the legislation passed the House with overwhelming bipartisan support.
The bill is passed.
But then something changed.
In the early part of 2022, the Michigan Manufactured Housing Association did a 180, pulled their support, and it died in the Michigan State Senate.
Of course it did. Of course it did.
When we looked at the records, we did see that coincided with the Michigan Manufactured Housing Association Political Action Committee suddenly getting some very big donations.
The Super PAC. Super PACs are like, if you don't know, Super PACs in this country are like they're like superheroes, but the opposite. They are like massive, massive villains that will gladly ruin your life.
Over the course of a year, 2 Haven Park executives gave $358,000 to the industry PAC.
And that's right when the Manufactured Housing Association just totally pulled their support.
That money is some of the people that I know, that's their grocery money. That's their prescription copay. That's the medicine that they're doing without and the food that they're doing without because these people were gouging them.
The most vulnerable residents in Michigan are being taken advantage of. And some people have to choose between rising rent, medications, and food.
In February, Holly, Theo, and other residents went to the state capitol to lobby for a new...
it is brave that they're continuing the fight, knowing, you know, they have a very limited budget, their money is about to run out, but they're still continuing to fight. And that's, you know, it's a coin toss, right, between bravery and stupidity. In this case, I say they're brave. They're determined and very determined. You can feel their determination welling in your heart to continue fighting. They're persistent. I'll give them that. They are persistent.
New version of the bill package.
I'm testifying in support of Senate Bills 486 through 490. There's no free market when residents are trapped.
Actually, there is a free market. This is a externality. It's a byproduct of the free market. It's a free market being manipulated, but you're on the losing end.
Its fate will be decided in the upcoming legislative session, this September and October.
We have overwhelming support from the Democrats in the House, and we have some Republicans who've committed to support as well.
How many legislators would you say you've met with?
I would say at least 100 of them. We've met with almost all of the Michigan Senate or their staff, and now we're starting to work on the House.
Manufactured housing communities are just one type of property that large investors have targeted in recent years. But these parks are ground zero in a fight that affects all of us. The fight for meaningful control of our neighborhoods and for housing that people from all walks of life can afford.
Everybody deserves drinkable water, and everybody deserves to have affordable housing. We just want a livable place.
Okay, so that's basically the end. Watching something like this, I don't have as much closing thoughts as I do closing questions. There's a lot of questions that when I'm just like dying to ask these residents. But of course, again, I'm not bashing anyone. These people, the choices they made, I'm sure were the best choices they could make at the time. I'm just thinking, maybe if because I don't want to say they're running a fool's errand, but they kind of are, facing against, this super PAC and trying to carve their way literally through blood and flesh out a pathway out of this multi-million-dollar industry. It's not going to be an easy task, and they'll probably lose moving forward. I'm trying to think of any other way. I can't. Like, if these people had band together from the very beginning, get a loan, right, and then buy out the original owners of the park, the nice stern couple that was mentioned before, if that had been the case, they might have been, they would probably be at peace now. There's no way that a private equity firm is going to let them go. That's just not going to happen. And the legislation front is just as dismal. I mean, I think that's really, buyout is really the only option they have. Maybe they can try to negotiate with a private equity firm, but I don't think that's very possible. I mean, I've seen something similar to that in a previous video about manufactured homes and private equity firms taking over. But I don't know the result of that. I don't know if that went anywhere or if they even get started at all. Maybe if they band together and get a loan and buy a different plot of land altogether and then move all of their homes over. Maybe. I mean, it's a huge cost, but it's better than being dragged by the nose, essentially. Yeah, I don't know. This is just one more nail in the manufactured home coffin for me, to be honest. I've never understand the appeal of owning a house that you can literally get evicted at any time. You work hard, and then you buy a house, and then you pay the mortgage, and then you have to pay rent on top of that, which kind of defeat the purpose of home ownership. And then, there's also the investment side of it, which is that manufactured home are not very, they're not as appreciative, I guess that's a word, as a regular traditional built-in home. And plus, put yourself in a buyer's shoe, right? Put yourself in a buyer's shoe. Would you want to buy a home where you have to pay a mortgage and then pay a rent every month? Do you want to buy a home on a piece of land that you don't own? That someone can come in and evict you at any time or raise the rent 100% at any time? Like, that's, who would buy that? So, I don't know. Opinions are mixed, but for me, this is the metaphorical nail in the manufactured home coffin. I will be staying far away from this. Live on the streets. Live under a bridge. Live in your car. Just stay away from manufactured home. Stay away from this prison that is just going to unchain your life further. That's my 2 cents, I guess. Don't buy it.